I know. I actually wasn't muted that time. I had the levels down. See? I wasn't making sure I wasn't muted. I wasn't actually muted. I just had the levels down. Let me fix this. Good morning, all. Great to see you. Great to see you. How did you get that special thing typed in there, Salmon Attorney? Look at that. You guys have the secret codes there. Welcome, everyone, to Friday. And good to see ROKFIN online. Good to see the other tubes online. And right on. Right on, right on, right on. Right on, right on, right on. I learned a lot about the body last night. I'm still probably in there, so you should probably be warned. There's not really, well, anyway. I'm not going to do that. There's a different levels of efficiency that your body has in relation to how much fuel you have and things like that. And there was a oh wait, I can't get the there. There was a sometimes I get deliveries and someone sent some chocolate. It was normal chocolate. Well, I shouldn't say normal. It wasn't like, crazy chocolate. It was. I'm under the impression, according to the packaging, it was just chocolate. And dang, man, that just threw me out. Yeah, lay off the chocolate. Thank you, Amanda. Where were you yesterday? Huh? Well, I know you were right here, and all I had to do was ask, right? But yeah, man. And but that's not what I want to talk about. I want to talk about how your levels of efficiency go down. Your ability to even compassionate. I need to actually email someone because I had a meeting and in the middle of that meeting I was feeling it. And it was shutting down my radar. All of your radar goes down in situations like that. But it reminds me that, guys, the next time your radar goes down like that, the next time you feel weak or you're not really feel like you're in your wits, that you have all your normal wits about you, I would like for you to strongly, I bet you this is probably better. I would like for you to strongly consider, see, like stuff like that. Like it took me that long to even hear that was happening. It's a perfect example of that. But when your wits get lowered, I want you to freeze frame that point, and I want you to seriously compassionate and go, there is someone out there in the world that this is their normal state. This is their normalcy that they have. And really try and keep that in mind the next time. I'd say one of the biggest trip ups that you have in this new hermetical, whether you want to believe it or not, all these things that have occurred, different buildings with numbers after them, different numbers with box cutters after them, all the different things that the anal sextoning that keeps happening around you, that is just going to be invisible. And it's not really, it's something you always have to hone your compassion sonar for all the time. In fact, your fear is probably your biggest compassion sonar. It's probably fear. What I mean is that if you could really tap into your fears, what you're really looking at is the ability to truly sense the world. You see fear more as like a negative thing. You could see that. I'm not saying you see it that way, but you could. But if you found your fear, you could actually be thankful. Oh wow, look, I actually know that I'm afraid of this. And then now you have this sonar that kind of bounces around, and you know how deep something is by how afraid of it you are. And that is giving you a completely different picture. You're seeing the invisible corners of these objects. You're seeing the invisible facets that weren't there before. All because you're not treating fear as something that has to be scoured away, but that it's actually this biofeedback. It's very important. It's crucial radar. I've been in touch with the fear of government, of what government's going to do. That's been a biggie for me. That's a constant. I noticed that I have the thing that if I was to analyze to you, well, what did you fear today? You see how I did that? If you were to analyze it like, well, hey, how was your day at work today, honey? The same could be said for, what did you fear today? What was it that you feared today? That if we had, how freaking cool would it be if that was how we used our equipment? And the honesty that you have with your fear, not even that you have to share it. It's not even that. It's not like you have to tell everyone your fears. It's that you get to look at what fear is really giving you. It's a very powerful sonar. It is. But only if you can afford that. If you are limited, if your system is down, that's not going to be effective. You're not going to be able to spend the energy on that, basically. It's an 8-bit world at that point. And there's not the same kind of resolution there. And I want you to see that idea of calories, the amount of energy it takes to perceive something by using your fear of something, is a very advanced skill. It's probably one of the most advanced skills there is in the jungle. And learning to not only harness that skill, but learning to realize that skill is not necessarily something that everybody has, is going to do well for you. It's going to save you a lot of energy when you start to look at others. We were going to have we were joking about having like a Golem week, a Goylem week, or a Gull, Gullm week. And one of the many reasons why we didn't do that yet, and we still might, is the idea that people started bringing up the idea of NPC, of a non-player character, that there are people that exist in this world that are non-player characters, and the Golem would be the personification of that. It's a fascinating idea, but I can't touch that. I can't go near that, because if I am going to allow this ability to call someone an NPC, I'm really just shutting off most of the equipment that I have. Most of the ability that I have really comes from me believing that there are no fake people. There are no narcissists. There are no... so it's not that there are no, it's that we don't understand what we're looking at, is what I mean by that. There's definitely psychopathy. There's definitely narcissism. There's definitely all those same traits. I think that some of them are inverted by our definition of them, just stuff like that. But that the only way to really even be in this world is to remove those labels and really do believe that everyone who has a witness is a living soul, is a flower, just like me. But some of them have very low blood sugar, and they're trying to get through the checkout at Sam's. They're trying to just get their stuff in the car so they can get home. They're not in, our government is a facade, and Build Back Better in Phoenician words is actually better, and upside down that's 666. Like, no one has. That's a very luxurious thing. for you and I to be thinking about, for you and I to exchange on. And so the NPC is, I think, better looked at as a young you. And it profits you to call someone an NPC maybe because you're trying to distance yourself from that younger you. But you were exactly the same way. You were worse. You were worse. And I know that probably is something that doesn't feel good, but I want you to treat that feeling just like we were treating fear 5 minutes ago. That feeling of, we'll call it shame, but I'm not saying that you would feel ashamed of who you were, but if you were calling someone else a non-human, if you were trying to, it's not even a name really, it's more about if you're trying to remove someone's humanity from someone, really what you're trying to do is distance yourself from that aperture. That's really what you're trying to do. And there's nothing wrong with distancing yourself from apertures because it allows you to feel more who you are, right? Like, fuck these people. I want to be over here. That's a very healthy thing. Do that. Keep doing that. I'm not even telling you to change all this. I'm telling you that just like fear is a sonar, so too is judgment. And I mean judgment in the... because judgment is a great word. But so too with dehumanization. That's it. Not judgment. Thank you. Dehumanization. I think I would have had that word if my level would have been higher before this blood sugar thing. Just a sidebar to illustrate what I mean. But the dehumanization is the exact same kind of sonar as fear is. What you dehumanize is really, really more about giving you a depth of where you are, who you are, and how afraid you are of slipping back down into that kind of, actually slipping back up into that kind of anti-depth. You were swimming with the squid, you were swimming with the whales, and you know that there are swimming hyena up here, and we know who we are. It would be, we'd save calories if we realized the only way we could swim this deep was to be up here. It's warmer water. Poor sound quality, by the way. A sonar signal from a dolphin or a whale is not going to travel hardly at all above the thermal layer between the surface of the water and, say, 50 feet, 60 feet. It really depends on temperature and salinity, not really depth. That truly the way that one whale could insert a tone that would ripple through the entire architecture of this world would be inside of the sound chamber. There's a sound chamber underwater. And that sound chamber is not too close to the top, but it's also not too close to the bottom. It's this equilibrium where you can ping a signal and it will be broadcasted for thousands of miles. It's a completely different skill. But the only way you could have ever learned this skill is by learning the thermos above you. Learning how to see. See, above you, you're not using your sonar as much. You're using your sight, you're using your smell. You're sensing the water. You're actually sensing the electricity in the water. Sharks have an electrical grid, and that grid is touching the salt water around them. And when something comes into contact, we call it smell, but no. It's electrical sensing. When the shark senses blood in the water, when he smells blood in the water, do you understand that the whole thing is salt water? So when you're in the water, you are connected to the network. Because you're connected to the network, you know where there is blood. You know it's 150 yards away. It's 500 yards away. This is the thermal level, that top level. It's about sight, it's about electrical density, it's about all those things. It's only when you get lower below into that medium thermal that you're dealing with this other kind of thing. This ham radio of sonar, that there's already been a network around this earth since before we started building networks. There are many NPCs by choice. I don't know if it's choice. I think that it's easy to... I've definitely seen many where so I know what you mean by, oh, that dude's totally choosing to check out. But you seeing that in him is you sensing that he sees that in himself too. And you're watching a guy that's just struggling to get over that hump, and he just can't. He just can't. Why? Because he needs more electricity, not less. He needs more, not less. You dehumanizing him, I'm not saying you did that, rock solid. I'm not saying anyone did that. But us, so why did I say that? Us dehumanizing them, I think, is us taking electricity away from them. When we could still see them for what they are and go, oh, look at them struggle. Come on, go, go, go. You can do it. You can do it. And not even with encouragement, even with, shame and fame are very important tools in this. You know, making it expensive, making it affordable. I'm all for that. I'm all for that. And I think that by connecting to them is finding a way to extend your sonar back up into those thermal zones and remember the way that you used to exclusively communicate. It's very valuable. There's many opponents above you on the vitriolic map, right? There are many opponents above you for that. And I think that the key to depth is just how comfortable you are with them around you. Red belt has its place. Of course it does. I agree. So does yellow belt. So is yellow belt. So is white belt. White belt's some of the most powerful medicine you can yield. And you are not above that. You are not above any of those. You're going to bring yellow belt if your blood sugar's low, where normally you would bring red belt or green belt, right? If your blood sugar's low, you're not going to bring green belt. You're going to bring yellow belt. So why not be good at yellow belt? Why not? Right? You come over from a long day, you're going to have red belt. You're not going to have green belt sometimes. So why not be a really good red belt? Why not? And how do we do that? Just like, how do you get really good at being in fear, having fear? You can either pretend like you'll never have fear again. You can pretend like you'll never be in red belt again. Or you can go, you know what? Fear is a really valuable sonar. It's giving me something important. I know that the moment I fear something, I respect something. That's interesting. You know that. And by respect, I mean, you know that can do you harm. And that the moment that something is not able to harm you anymore, it becomes impossible for you to fear it. You can still see it, you can still insinuate it, but you can't fear it anymore. So red belt's actually really valuable. It's crucial. And I think that's really what's happening. Your body can't afford to go up to blue belt and say something, so it stays quiet, and it stays in red, and it stays angry. So it couldn't reach the compassionation to see why you said something, nor could it reach the blue belt needed to say something about what you said or did not say. So it stays in red. Why does it stay in red? Did it go to red because that was a waste? No. It went to red because your fields needed you to process at the anger level. Your intuition, this thing that's a quarter of a second ahead of you and all your decisions, gave you that anger. It said, you know what? Let's render this as anger. Let's broadcast this as anger through the system. We've done our flight path. We've done our targeting. I've submitted my targeting map to the Khan. The Khan has approved our targeting strategy, and we are now going to the phase of action based on our target. So what made those decisions? Maybe the anger is there because it wants you to use that sonar as a sensing of what's there. Maybe the fear, same way. Maybe the ignorance, the same way. Even the compassion. Because isn't it interesting that you can fail in compassion? That there are certain situations where you wanted to display a blue belt, but you didn't have enough energy. You get to red belt, but you have more energy than just anchor. You can compassionate why someone said something to you, but you cannot bring up enough energy to say something such as that hurt me or that bothers me. So that doesn't mean that your compassion belt's always the best thing. Look what just happened to you. You abandoned yourself because you reached the point where you could compassionate them and then you stopped. You stopped right there. So your intuition, by giving you compassion, isn't saying, here's how to solve this problem. The intuition is saying, here's how you almost could have made it higher if you want to. If you want to. So all of these things are aimed at your preservation. And preservation's good. Nothing wrong with preservation. Nothing wrong at all. Geez, red belts that realize they are unable to wake people up could stop putting in the effort and thus sometimes categorize these. They cannot wake up as NPCs. Yes. And we call them sheep. We can call them sheep. We can call them NPCs. We can. And you can feel a little bit expensive when you do it, too, right? You can call them that, and you can feel like you're dehumanizing them right after you call them that. And you could not have enough compassion. You could not have enough energy to actually say, hey, I shouldn't have dehumanized them. All those are very valid moral things. That's going to be your prana economy to what you see. And if I make it too expensive by saying, if you dehumanize someone, then you're a bad person, and then you dehumanize someone and you feel like a bad person and that's too expensive, you would defend yourself maybe by not listening to me, or by setting up some sort of sandbag between you and me. And those sandbags would be just as vital, just as healthy, but more importantly, just as revealing to you about your environment. I think the answer really lies in the immediacy of telling yourself, nothing you've actually done is wrong. This is what I mean by some people pretend to be NPCs to survive. I think that could be just a little bit of lack of that compassion muscle on your part. Not that you need to spend it on that, because you get to pick what you're going to spend it on. And I'd rather you be able to choose what you're going to spend it on, right? So it's nothing wrong with you shelving someone as a narcissist or a sheep or an NPC or whatever. You need to survive. And the more electricity you have, just there'll probably be less of those people on your shelf. Probably. I think for the most part, yeah. Why? Because overall, if you want to efficiently run better, you're going to have to go to that shelf and pull people off. I have people on the block list on this channel. And every 30 days or every moon or so, I have to go in and let those people off block. And the entire time while they're on block, I don't feel good about it. I look at that, because I have enough electricity, I look at that as, hey man, why you got some issues here? Like why can't they just say whatever they want to say? And so I run through that process and I eventually unblock them. Not all of them, but that's only because I've unblocked them like 3 or 4 times in a row, and it's finally just like, you know what, this is the best call for me. So I've NPC'd them. I've dehumanized them. Right? And that's sonar. It's not even a mistake. It's not a mistake because me dehumanizing them is an expense I have. I spend energy on it, right? I just spend energy on it. Trying to get your point, Sark, but you've got it spread over a couple comments. But I just value the thought process. Usually, if I don't use my blue belt, I'm just stuck in a state of sadness. That's what. And even if you lose here's the biggie. Holy fuck! Here's the biggie. Blue belt is not always a winner. You will tell people that were too delicate to hear something. You will tell them what they needed to hear because compassionately, energetically inside of you, you needed to say that. You needed to enunciate that. You enunciated that. And you feel like total shit for it. Right? Even that is giving you that. The reason why I never talk about black belt is because black belt doesn't have an opponent. There's no opponent. Remember when I told you that fear is the fact that something can hurt you? That when something cannot damage you anymore, it becomes impossible for you to fear it. You can apathize it. Maybe you could find it disgusting, right? I don't know. We'd have to explore that. But the fear itself is going to remove that. So the black belt doesn't have an opponent because the black belt isn't on the mat. You're only on the mat with someone who's giving you vitriol. The black belt would have no vitriol from you because the black belt would have no Achilles heel that could be wounded. They're self-regulating. They have that self-sense. They're not seeking any kind of validation anywhere else. I'm not saying that's the totality of being a black belt because I don't think it is. I think that we have to be permeable. We have to connect. I know that's built. Actually, I don't think that. I know that. That's why shunning was the first punishment. The first punishment was banishment. We have to connect with each other. So all of these things that you bring, you would only bring if you had an opponent on the mat. And if you are kung fuing this life in David Carradine style, which, by the way, he was awful at that. No matter where he went, the dude was always finding an enemy. It's interesting that was never discussed in the show. That at no point he used blue belt, red belt, yellow belt, or actually he never used yellow belt because that was considered bad. Nor did he use red belt because that was considered bad. He used blue belt and he fought a lot. Now I'm going to call that red belt actually because red would be fear and action, right? You have to do something because you're afraid. So I take that back. His fighting is red belt. His compassion, I guess you could call it compassion. I don't think David Carradine had a lot of compassion in Kung Fu. He would fluctuate between his blue belt and his red belt. But the show would suck if he never had any opponents, right? I mean, that would suck if every time someone hit him, he was just like, what's going on at home, buddy? Well, I will beat you. Yeah, but what's going on at home? You can beat me, but, Or as he's beating him, David Carradine's like, yeah, what's her name? Show me on this doll where it hurt you, right? I don't think it's being indifferent. I think that being indifferent, is being a black belt becoming indifferent. I don't think that it's quite that way. I think that indifference would be closer down to the white belt level. I think that a black belt would truly appreciate anyone's exchange from a green belt, a red belt, an orange, a yellow belt, or a white belt. So I think a black belt would see the white belt and encourage them as someone who could maybe learn to have fear one day, right? Seriously. It's like, so what do you do when you're waking up the sheep? You're telling them that there are some dangers out there. You're teaching them the skill of fear from the very beginning. A conscious flower that is not opened up. You're teaching them the skill of fear. And it's a slow process. They're in the dojo when they're training. All they know is white belt. All they know is that they're here. They don't even really know that, do they? That's what makes it so interesting. So the black belt would appreciate the white belt and encourage him to find his yellow belt. The black belt would appreciate the yellow belt and see, look how scared you are. And then say, yes, but you can caramelize that fear. You can caramelize that fear by recognizing your threats in the world and targeting them. That's not compassion at all. This is yellow belt training for red belt. And so the black belt would see the yellow belt and have no problem with it and be able to encourage them through compassionation how they might reach red belt from there. Same thing with red belt. Same thing with green belt. Red belt, it would say, start a homestead, build your own food, go off grid, get a well. This is what I mean by it's all these are beautiful architectural colors. They elicit action. Actually, they elicit energy. That's a better word. They elicit energy. And they have to, because you're going to express that energy. What we don't want is equality. What we don't want is for you not to express any energy at all. The white belt is expressing energy. That energy is lay down, don't see, cover eyes. That's an energy. It doesn't take much energy to do that. This doesn't require a lot. But this is more than just not doing that. This is prejudicial. I want my life to feel more comfortable, so I'm going to cover my eyes. That's a prejudicial decision. So the black belt would meet every belt and find humanity in the interaction because there's no threat to the black belt. And so the threat would be that black belt's really learned how to be permeable. Not vulnerable, but permeable. So the difference between green and blue, green is so someone with poor boundaries is going to be a good green belt, Nate. If you have really poor boundaries, you will tend to be really good at green belt because you're just simply trying to feel better about about what's happening to you. And the way that you would feel better is you would slip into compassion. And you would compassionate why, he didn't mean to beat me. He just had a hard day at work, right? That's some sick green belt. It is. That's some you had you passed the red, you had the anger to process it, you had more, but you didn't quite have enough to say something about it. You didn't quite. Yeah, most people who've been accused of being empaths are going to be wicked green belts, and they're going to be like, "Oh, look how good I am at green belt." But the entire thing's been self-serving. It really has. The only reason why you're good at green belt is because there's so many times where you would have been really, really coming out on top if you could have mastered that blue belt, and that's why it puts you at green belt, doesn't it? It puts you there so you can find the benefits and the disadvantages to that belt and apply it to the next one up. Pretender of black belt. Don't try to convince anybody. Pretender of black belt. I would say that the black belt. Well, I don't know, because I don't think I'm a black belt. I think that we all have our moments where someone who would have been an opponent a year ago is not an opponent now. That happens all the time. So yeah, we all have the black belt that comes out too. But sometimes you cannot make it. I don't think that the black belt could make it expensive. I don't know. It's really interesting because I think above black belt would probably be the dude that's like, the world is perfect the way it is. Stop making it expensive or cheap, right? That would definitely be somewhere up there. I'm nowhere near there. I'm in the realm of I will make things expensive and I will make things cheap. That's where I am. And I deserve to be there. I don't deserve to be higher. That's where I'm at. That's what I feel. I'm dilated by it. It gives me a matrix to create, to write, to talk, to speak, all of that. So Yeah, blue belt's one of the hardest. Especially when you're so good at compassion, because everyone rewards you for your compassion. The minute you start exercising the blue belt, that's where people start punching back. When you show compassion, it's the same as just letting someone hit you. It's the power of turning the cheek. Very, very powerful thing, and very abandoning. It abandons the shit out of you, right? I realize I found you from Skeptico, so in reality, good came out of it. I have shared your work. Well, thanks, Melissa. Yeah, I think Alex is a great guy. The whole time during the interview with Alex from Skeptico, by the way, Alex from Skeptico, very nice, reached out to do an interview, was happy to do that. And during the interview, the dude was hearing things from me that just was not making him comfortable, and he was trying. He was legit trying to be comfortable with this. He'd been looking forward to this interview as much as I had. He put a lot of effort into it as much as I had. We were looking for a common ground there. That hour and a half talk, I actually don't remember exactly how long we talked, but that maybe hour long talk, I guess just to be safe, was cut down into 20 minutes. And most of it was Alex kind of explaining to the audience, here's where James said something horrible. and he was that, at no point was Alex saying, I want to be mean or cruel. If anything, Alex was saying, I want to be as compassionate as possible. In the black belt, if you could call my reaction to that black belt, I don't know yet, we'll figure it out, but the black belt in me always saw that in Alex. I wasn't like, I am personally affronted or hurt by this display. It bothered me that we lost the time. I felt censored again. That fucking stung like a bitch. And I exercised my blue belt. I told him exactly how I felt. So it was a good match for me. I don't feel, when I see the word Skeptico, I don't feel, like, oh, or anything like that. It was a nice, clean move. I wish that he could have played the whole interview. He later asked if I would do a debate, and maybe I should have took him up on that. But how can I do a debate if what would be better is if he played that whole interview and then say, I'm so outraged by this guy, I challenge you to a debate, and then we have a debate. That would be better. Because otherwise, how do we know the debate isn't just going to be, I'm going to say a few things and then it's going to hurt and then it's not going to play. I was whittled down to the peculiarities of James True. Yeah, and it's interesting because my only point, not one thing of Alex's take on history did I say wasn't true. Not one. And every single take that I told him about history, Alex said was not true. But every take that I had of history had a source. Came from the classified ads of old Boston. It came from flyers hanging in bars and taverns in England. It came on charter contracts. It came on information found in the New World. It came from census records from the Cherokee and the Seminole. Not one bit of that is, so I got this theory, and it's like these aliens, not one bit of it. Not one. Every piece of that was delicately placed from someone who grew up in the South and spent a lot of time looking at his history. Why? Because I'm there. You find it odd that I talk about the South a lot? Or do you find that would be absolutely necessary if someone had just a deep cup and they were in the South? Why would I not know more about what was happening in the South than anyone else? That's what's so strange, is that he was calling me a revisionist because I was educating him. I was giving him more information, and Alex was calling that revisionistic, was revising what he knew. That's white belt. It was white belt with a little bit of yellow on top. And that yellow crested in a foam of red where he cut 40 minutes out. And that was the best he could do. It's not the only time. Did you guys know my very, very, very first interview on YouTube was with a fellow by the name of Randy Moggins? And Randy and I did an interview. He published it. It was a really good talk. I had some insights. I only know this because he said that. James, you have given me some profound insights on my relationship with my father. And 7 days later, he pulled that interview. He pulled that interview and explained to everyone else how evil and horrible I was. It was he wanted you to have white belt, not see the interview, and he expressed himself through the same levels. There was some fear propped up from that, and then some red propped up from that. What was the fear? What kicked that off? If I remember correctly, and I may not, but if I remember correctly, after the interview, we were exchanging on Facebook. I thought friendly, but either I said something that alluded to space program not being real, or I said something about flat Earth. This is like years and years ago, before it was even hip. Like, I know that's like it's hip, and then there's not hip, and then there's like different layers of where that was hip. But it was back when it was just nothing but ridicule to get that. It's the same kind of interaction. Now, as a black belt, I think that I would have been more prone to not say those things, because I would have been more accepting of, well, this is who he is, this is what's important to him, and why would that affect me? That kind of thing. There's been a lot of interviews I've done where that same thing's happened. It's that reaction was all three belts, and you'll see those reactions in yourself and in everyone else too. And you should really be proud of your red belting. What I mean is if you end up with nothing but red belt, really, really analyze that. This is what I had, this is what I did, and how could I be better at that later? You can be angry at someone in a very graceful way. You can. You can express your anger perfectly, succinctly, and move on. I'm not saying I have this down, but I'm saying that if you feel like showing your red belt is a problem, you're never ever going to have that experience, because they're going to sense how insecure you are as you're expressing your red belt. And when they feel the insecurity, it's going to be very difficult for that red belt to be felt as constructive in any way. It'd be impossible. Yeah, put it in a box, then complain about the box. Exactly. I think a lot of that giving people labels. See, I attack that across the board, whether it be NPC, sheep, and I'm a hypocrite. I slip into this all the time. But when we're calling people narcs, we're calling them anything like that, it's really showing us our own shallowness of our compassion. It's not really showing us how bad they are or how unhuman they are. It's really showing us that we personally just have zero capacity to see past a certain threshold, and it becomes cheaper for us to call them whatever it is. Beta, gamma, sigma, right? Or narc, NPC, or sheep even. I was a sheep. I'm a sheep all the time. I'm still a sheep. It's going to depend on how much I can afford at the moment. And when you go to a movie theater, if you show something scary on the screen, most everyone does a sheep. They close their eyes. That's sheep. That white belt is built into you. You do not want to remove that. That's a sign that you have prejudice. That's a sign you're alive. That's a sign that you care for yourself. What would you expect for someone with skeptic in his name? It's even skeptic is even that is a healthy thing. The problem with skeptic, though, I think, which is what Nate, I don't mean to speak for Nate right now, but the problem with skeptic is that it really does still approach the world like everything's true by default, everything's been bunked, and I will skepticate one of these things very closely for you. I don't mean to speak for you, Nate, but this is what I think that's what I think you're really speaking to, because the heart of, if we would just be all the time that bunker person, we wouldn't need to debunk. We would only tell each other things that have been bunked, right? It would be a whole different thing. So Depends on the context. We always have to categorize when we use words to communicate. Yeah, you can categorize something and they can still be human. It's a difference between saying someone is an NPC versus someone is really, really in white belt. I think really in white belt keeps them a human versus is an NPC. So, but I don't want to. The last thing I want to do is put anyone in this, weird word dance where they can't touch anything on the floor unless they say the words right. Like I think that's just as unhealthy to regurgitate language properly so that you say things right. If you catch these holes in your language, it's not that you need to fix your language. It's just that you need to maybe look at your assemblage. Where is your camera in the scene? If you don't change your words, change your camera in the scene, and then the words that come out will just naturally flow with more electricity, and you might be able to see someone's human side more. That's all. It's fair to be afraid of NPCs because NPCs are the ones that are consenting harder than you are for this system. It's very healthy to be afraid of something that's only exhibiting white belt. Do you understand? It's healthy. And it's good. You should tap into that. You should tap into that and look at your fear as a kind of sonar, because it is. Hey, tomorrow night, I'm doing an interview with Jeranism. I'm going to be on Jeranism show. And I'm looking forward to that. I hope you guys are too. So you guys should check that out. I don't know if it's just going to be on ROKFIN or what. You'll just have to watch and see. Yeah, change your camera. Don't change your language. Your language will change based on your camera. And so the language, people are always like, well, language is not always, but people are like, language is horrible. It's such a crappy, but no, it's a really great feedback system. By watching your language and someone else's, you're understanding someone's assemblage point. You're understanding it. You're not like saying, "Oh, look how dumb assemblage point is." There's no dumb assemblage points. There's not an angle in the house that you wouldn't put a camera that wouldn't be interesting if you're a good videographer. But James is right behind the pole. It's staring at the pole. I know. And isn't that a beautiful perspective? Because right now, from this position where the camera's right behind a pole and you can't see it, you are now listening to someone's words instead. Suddenly their words become much larger because there's a pole now separating you and you can't see them. There's no such thing as a bad camera angle. There's no such thing as a bad assemblage point. And if you think there is, that judgment might be something else. It might be giving you a sonar about yourself and where it's at. I'm glad you made it, Michael. What time? I think it's going to be at 6 Eastern. I think it's going to be at 6 Eastern. We may postpone High Magic tomorrow night. I don't know. I'm gonna regroup today, and but yeah, I'm really looking forward to. I've never been on Jaren's show, so that'll be very first time that's ever happened. We've only texted back and forth, really, so we've really never even spoken. There's a rumor that I've been on Globebusters, but I don't actually think technically that's true. And the time that I was on Globebusters, Jaren wasn't there because it was filmed separately, I think, or played or something like that. There's no poor dolphin signals then. Yeah. Yeah, let's do High Magic tonight instead. Well, we could do that. That might work. We could. We'd ask Sark. See what he thinks. But yeah, we could maybe do that. I would imagine I'll probably feel fine by tonight. I'm still feeling a little weird. Sorry I don't have like more of a show. I hope this is an interesting show. I maybe it's not. I have no idea. I hope it is. Happened to me at work last night. Expressed my anger at a workmate because I felt he was pulling energy I don't have at that moment. Yeah. And that's why you need practice. When you find yourself using your blue belt and you feel like shit for it, that's some of the best practice you can ever have. When you feel like shit for that, I want you to really, really sit with yourself and say, why do I feel bad? And I think maybe, especially if you're like Nate, half the times that you felt bad for using your blue belt, you still should have done it. You felt bad because you're just weak as fuck when it comes to speaking your mind. That's why, the first time you pick up a keg, you get a job at a bar and you're a bar back. The first time you pick up a keg that's full, you're like, holy fuck, this really hurts. I don't want to. The 60th time you pick up a keg, it's no big deal. You just have work to do. So the times that the blue belt is stinging is, remember how I told you look at fear as a sonar? Look at the guilt. Look at guilt as tearing a muscle. Because if you keep using that blue belt, the guilt will stop, because as you're using the blue belt, you will remember the guilt of your past, and that will refine your words and make you more confident. You will speak less. The guilt will make you speak less. That's why most of you will not use your blue belt, because the guilt's so strong. You're like, I'm never going to use that blue belt again. Holy fuck. I can't believe I just told someone how I felt. Now they're making me burn in hell forever for it. I can't believe this is happening. From now on, I will just compassionate the fuck out of someone until I lose this anger, because I don't want to hit them. I don't want to fear them. I don't want to ignore them. I just want to survive, and I don't want to feel like shit for it. And so you will get to green and you will find a way to squeak it out when no one's looking. And you'll be, well, I don't really deserve to be respected. Not really. That's green belt. That is green belt. It is. That's green belt. And that's why it's so wicked. It's beautiful when you finally make it up there and you can start, because you're all proud of it. Look at me. I got compassion. Look how badass I am. And then you're just cucking the fuck out of yourself because of that Perseus syndrome that you get with compassion. Perseus syndrome meaning you're being rewarded for something even though it's bad, right? Squeeze love you for killing Medusa. Who's Medusa? She's this chick over there that no one understands. We're rewarding you for killing her tomorrow. That's what you're doing when you're staying there. Blue belt is hard. It's hard. And the first time you do it, your voice will crack energetically. People will sense that weakness and they'll say, did you just say ego is not bad, brah? Because you need to check that ego if you're going to come in here defending the word ego. That's the first time you defend the word ego. That's what's going to happen. You're going to get your ass kicked. You are. You're going to get your ass kicked. And it's going to take you months. You're going to run home. You're going to be like, fuck this shit, man. I'm just going to compassionate everyone. And next time someone shits on ego, I'm not going to do that trick that James said where I'm going to defend ego. Instead, I'm going to be like, yeah, check your ego, brah. And then I'm going to leave that night, and when I get in my car, I'm going to feel like shit. I'm not going to know why. But I have more energy now than I did 3 months ago. And I might remember that the reason why I have more energy now, the reason why I feel like shit, is because I just shat on my ego to make myself feel better instead of using my blue belt to speak up and say, hey, maybe ego isn't so bad. And that's the second time. Rocky lost in Rocky 2. He lost. He lost. It's important. You would not be able to build up your blue confidence had you not lost, had you not been such a pushover in purple. And you're good at purple. You're good at purple because it feels good. It feels good to compassionate someone. It feels great. Yes, did you just dehumanize it? Yes, Ark, it's exactly it. It's exactly it. Arrogance is really just confidence that hasn't been sheened yet. There's really no such thing as arrogance. Arrogance is someone who's really, really got some good form on that kick, but they just don't have that full confidence yet. It's close, though. They're close. Arrogance is close. It is. You're going to need that arrogance to drop in on the half pipe. You're going to have that arrogance the first time you step down on the front of that board and just go. That takes arrogance, Keith. I'm not trying to single you out. I'm trying to say that all these things are part of it. And so the shame that you feel of that arrogance is part of that. You need to hone your sheen through that shame, and you'll get past that. Oh, thanks, Mike. That's nice. These are these aren't even skills. These are ways to associate your opponent more. If you associate with your opponent, your plasma is touching him all over the place. You're touching his elbows, his shoulders, his arms. You're touching his ribs. You're compassionating him so you know exactly where your opponent is. Like Mike Tyson, right? Dude compassionated his opponent more than anyone else in that entire hall. No one compassionated them more than Mike Tyson did. That's why he's there. That's why it works. I'd say it takes about 12, and you can count Twitter with this. I've done it. I bet you I've defended the ego in public now over 50 times, only because of Twitter. And I'm telling you, after about the 15th time, there was some kind of vibration in my tweet where people just couldn't touch it anymore. I think what's happening is when you're putting the letters in a tweet, what you're really doing is in between each letter, you're inserting a bit of your prana, a bit of your vibration. And so when people like tweets, what they're really doing is they were reading the humanity between the letters and they respond to it. And I think that's why the very first time or second time you defend the word ego in public, you get such a backlash because there's not enough of a confident signal between those letters, between the letters that you speak, to allow someone to know, wow, there's some serious energy behind this. I need to take this seriously. And what's profound about that is that kind of seriousness lasts for years. I'm telling you, for years. The first time you do that, if someone's never heard anyone defend ego like that, like in a very cutting, curt way, which you would call rude and you would call mean, but you're elevating society by doing that. But in a very clear, concise, cut, curt way. Ego, blah, 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 blah. This is really harmful because of this and this and this. And if anything, if all of us had more ego right now, all it would do is help us more. And I just wish that we could learn to change our language that way. It's very curt, cutting, to the point, surgical. It's not allowed to be taken personally because it's just a surgical adjustment to everyone at the table about a certain subject. Right? This analogy is horrible, guys. We can't use this analogy to describe this because this analogy is based on this other. No, let's use this analogy. It's just a very quick correction. And if you have the confidence in it, people sense that confidence and say, yeah. If you don't have the confidence in it, you're going to hear a lot of bullshit that has nothing to do with anything. It's going to be them just having a conversation about how you weren't really that confident between each of the letters you expressed. I swear to God, that's what's actually happening. I swear to you. Most of your conversations are that. You're talking about the confidence that's encrypted between the letters being broadcast, and that the only way we can talk about that energy is with concepts and words. And we use the word someone just said because it gives us an opportunity to keep cohesion. It's seriously that way. Excellent, Buzz 369. I snap if someone calls someone self-righteous and a nick. Yes, I do the same thing with selfish and selfless. Right? I make it very expensive for someone to reward selflessness. I make it very expensive for someone to try and imply that they're doing this for someone else. And I do that by saying, well, if you're doing this for someone else, I really think that you should reconsider your motivations. They're like, what the fuck did you just say to me? It's like, yeah, I don't think it's genuine. If you can't find a way to do this for yourself and reward yourself and just generally feel better about doing this, I don't think that being selfless is healthy. Because I hit the target right in the fucking face. Cream pie. Right there. It's very crucial. Yeah. Nate, I like explaining to people they didn't give the homeless man $5 because they're a good person. They did it because it makes them feel good. Selfish, not bad. Exactly. It's great. Why would you not want to make yourself feel good? And it only costs you $5, and look how convenient it is. The homeless guy's right there. You can alchemize what that homeless guy's doing to you at the red light, right? If you avert your eyes and say, oh, I can't look at this, that's you giving them prana. You averting your eyes is giving them prana. The fear, seriously, you have fear in that situation because you fear that you're now going to not like yourself for a certain period of time. And you've already measured out how long is this going to take. Well, I know that I'm going to be stopping for gas, and I bet you as soon as I get out of the car, I'll be able to reset that and I'll be fine. But now you're counting the calories until you get to that car. You know this is happening. You could pretend it doesn't. And this is your first encounter with these things. And then every day when you leave work, you forget that same dude's there. You forget that. And then you ride up and you're like, oh God, this guy's here again. Man. Then you start thinking, is this going to be a thing? It's like every time I come to this intersection, is this guy going to be here? Then you come the next day and you forgot all about it. But then right before you saw him, you all of a sudden realized, oh God, I wonder if that homeless guy's... And then you realize, holy shit, this guy owns the whole fucking block. And you pull up and there he is. And guess what? He's got a fucking puppy in his hands. Oh God. Now you're just fucking dying. It's just killing you because you're still suffering from that pranic loss a week or two ago when you looked away. When you looked away. And that guy's doing you a huge favor because he's allowing you to build up enough prana to either accept yourself or reject yourself. And it's the most beautiful thing because you could never, ever go into a store and say, hi, I'd like an experience with a homeless person, please. Do you have one of those? It's the beauty of Dojo Earth is that these opportunities are waiting for you all the time. And when you can see these opportunities and go, holy shit, here's one of these opportunities. How do I feel? Oh my God, he's got a puppy amplifier. Holy shit. Oh, his girlfriend's there. Oh my God. Look how cute she is. Oh my God, these people are adorable. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? And you give them money. And it feels better until the next day. And then the next day, you feel better because you're like, well, I gave money yesterday. And now you're allowed to look at them. Now you're allowed to make eye contact because, in fact, you want to look at them because you want them to know that you are the dude that gave them money yesterday. And you enter into this whole other equation. I'm not saying this all happens this way, but you can picture how this would happen, right? You can see how this would happen to someone that's a human, someone that you might think is an NPC, someone that you might think is foolish, but this is a very human, beautiful thing that's happening right now. This whole thing that the homeless person's teaching you. He's providing a very valuable service that you cannot get anywhere else in the world. Seriously, you can't get it anywhere else. It's so valuable. And the entire time, the black belt would have no opponent. The black belt would see that this is an opportunity. The black belt would see, oh, look at this man. Look at this man. He has a sign. Oh, look, his sign says, need help. Anything you can give is possible. The world has love, right? Right? And you're like, wow, what a beautiful sign. Look at how that really hooks. And check it out. You could give money. You could tell yourself, that probably took a lot of, he probably had to shed pretty much the last of his self-esteem. He had to shed about 2 weeks ago. And he's trying to make light of that in the sign. And since he shedded his self-esteem, I'm going to go ahead and give him some money. You could have that interaction. And you could say it was horrible, I'm just supporting it, or what should I do? You can go through all that. All that's going to be a beautiful vitriol. Another way is just to pull up and see someone on the road who's got a sign and smile at him. And witness him. Just give him full witness. And you can't fake it. You can try and fake it, and that'll hone you, just like, the ego's not bad. And if someone's like, what'd you say? Now maybe you were faking it. Maybe you thought the ego wasn't bad. But if you do that enough, you'll be a titan. You'll be a titan at those things. I got so good at that. I'm under the impression that I got so good at that when I was in Costa Rica, I was just I had the best time. It was like a big flight mix-up or some crap like that. And like 6 hours, I was really had no choice but to hang out at this bus station on the ground behind with like 6 other, I'm going to call them homeless guys. And it was just like a real treat. It was like a really big treat for me. It was just like, what a great way. There's no way that I could have gotten this. I wouldn't have chosen this. I wouldn't have been like, let's go explore Costa Rica. Yeah, let's go to a bus station and hang out behind that. I never would have done that. Never. It was a gift. It was a gift. And if I would have felt bad or out of place or inconfident or too abundant or any of that, if I would have felt guilty for my abundance, any of that, none of that would have worked. None of it. None of it would have worked. So these things are beautiful that are happening. Yeah, the same thing. I went to San Francisco, been there many times for work. Literally been threatened into a fist fight because I didn't smoke. Yeah, that happens too. And that guy was giving me more confidence. If anything, he was telling me it's okay to keep some of myself when I see someone homeless. It was a very valuable lesson. It was very helpful. Very thankful for that. There's so many gifts here. Sages everywhere. You're surrounded by them. They're everywhere, I tell you. Everywhere. Now multiply that energy to the Merry Pranksters level. Yeah, it does make more sense. Secret societies will make more sense. I think anyone that's a black belt is a secret society when you're dealing with someone that's in yellow belt or red belt or green belt. Does that make sense? You're in a secret society when you're functioning on the mat at a higher level than someone else. And that's an easy excuse to dehumanize at that point too. It is. And sometimes you may have to dehumanize someone to survive, by the way. Don't fucking listen to me. Prune my lips. Prune them. Yep. Yep. You can't associate too much with humanity, and you can't associate too much without humanity. It's just right. You got to handle it just right. It doesn't make me feel good to give money to the homeless. It feels like it's not enough to really help them. A meal might feel somewhat good, something real. And that's a very valid way of looking at that. I would call that a certain hurts. A certain hurts. I think that, Christy, at the base root, what you're reflecting is that you feel like they need help. And your response may be, I don't mean to speak for you, but your response may be, well, of course, James, of course they need help. I mean, they're here standing on the sign. They've got a sign that says, I need help. And you don't feel like you're really helping them. Christy, the reason why you don't feel like you're really helping them is because they don't really need help. You will know. You will know when someone really needs help and you try and give it to them. You will know if it was genuine. You will know that's real. You'll feel it. You won't have a choice. We have this human, direct, face-to-face connection. The homeless person is learning something too. The homeless person is learning to stretch everyone else's compassion belt. It is. It's stretching everyone else's compassion belt for them. And so I don't give them money. Yeah, you can give them energy. You can give them witness. Like Nate. Do you understand? If you gave that homeless person witness, like if you really just watch them, you're actually helping them because they're like, wow, this person is just giving me their witness. That's all they're doing is giving me their witness. I don't like this. And the next morning, it becomes that much more expensive for them to go out on the street. The same thing kind of happens when you give them a sandwich. Same thing. It doesn't really make them feel better. It doesn't. It's an asynchronous connection where both of you have an opportunity to feel something different. That's really what it is. Yeah, talk to them is the same as witnessing them, right, Reese and Ace? Like, and most of them don't actually want you to talk to them. I'm not going to say most, but there'll be a lot of that too. Yeah, if you give them witness, what you're really doing is saying, I acknowledge you. I acknowledge you more than it's uncomfortable for me to acknowledge you. Talk about respect. I acknowledge you more than it makes me comfortable to not acknowledge you. That's like the biggest gift you could give them. I don't even think it requires a conversation, by the way. Yeah, just like you said, love in my face. The requires a connection, not a conversation. That true, genuine connection. It will sear them as much as it will sear you, right? It's searing each of us to our own degree because we're searing ourselves in the light of that witness. So, all right, we will close it out with that. That's all I got, except for thanks for being here. Homeless people stink to high heaven. I witness that daily. Yep, they do. And that's, it's interesting because you can sense them more. They feel invisible and they smell bad. It's like you sense them more. It's like the narc. The narc doesn't have abundance of self-love. The narc has a deficit of self-love. It's showing you what it needs. It's very honest. So are the homeless. They're showing you they want attention. And if they have to smell this bad to get it, they will do it. If they're going to choose to crash in front of where everyone else goes, where all the traffic is, how is that not them saying, I want witness? Right? They want witness. They don't want your money. They want your witness. Why is witness so expensive for you to give them? That's some valuable sonar there. It is. You feel bad giving them witness because you're tapping into their regulatory system and you're realizing it's not the same as yours, but that shouldn't make you feel bad. If anything, that should make you feel good. So it's a brilliant exercise. Yeah, they're not NPCs, they're quest givers. There's some black belt for you. They're not NPCs, they're quest givers. They are the fountainhead of questing. That's right. That's exactly what they are. Oh, it's beautiful. All right, guys, I love you. Yeah, it looks like maybe we'll do High Magic tonight. I need to check with Spells of Truth, though. I love that guy. We missed him last week. Wanted to have him on. But just stay tuned for that. And definitely hope to see you tomorrow, too, for that Jaron interview. Good. I'm glad you enjoyed the show. Thanks for being here, Mandy. Thanks for being here, everybody. And we'll see you next time.